All right. So yesterday we went over the sine ratio, and we made sure that we were able to do this by the acronym SO. And the day before that, or a couple days before that, we went over the acronym TAN. So sine equals opposite over adjacent, and tan equals opposite over hypotenuse, and tan equaling opposite over adjacent. So we have SO and we have TOA, but the one we're going to learn about today is the cosine ratio, and it's CA. SO, CA, TOA. These are the ways we're going to consistently remember all of the different trigonomic ratios that we've gone over this quadmester, okay? So the definitions don't change. We know the hypotenuse, which is the side across from the 90-degree angle. We know the opposite, which is the side across from the angle under examination. And we know the adjacent, which is the side next to the angle under examination, but not the hypotenuse, okay? So if we look at our cosine ratio, once again, it is a ratio based on side lengths in relative to an angle, okay, or something that we're looking at under investigation. So if we look at the first triangle here, ABC, and we notice that the angle under investigation is angle B, we know that the hypotenuse is always that long side, AB. We know the one across from the angle under investigation is the opposite, and the one directly across it, we now know, is adjacent. And if we look at triangle 2, ABC, we know the exact same thing. The hypotenuse stays the same, but the angle under in question is different. So the one across from it is now the opposite, and the one beside it here is the adjacent. So nothing's changed. We're just looking at now the cosine ratio, and that is described by cos x equals adjacent over hypotenuse, or that is where we get CA. Okay, so we've got our last acronym we're dealing with, and there are 3 in total that we have to be familiar with. And anytime, guys, if you have a question, feel free to write it in the chat. I'm more than okay to stop as we go. So it says for the angle A or triangle ABC, it says identify the following. So the hypotenuse we know is AB, or that long side. The side adjacent to angle B. Remember that when we see this, that means angle. So the adjacent side to angle B would be right here. So CB. Or BC, sorry, getting a better habit, BC. And then the side adjacent to this angle, or angle A, would then be AC. We just have to get familiar with when things change, when the angles change, how we're going to deal with them. Now, you've used the sine button on your calculator. You've used the tan button on your calculator. Now it's your turn to use the cos button. So if we type in cos 30 or 30 cos, depending on your calculator, and we round to 4 decimal places, please do that now if you have a calculator, you should get 0.8660. Could I get somebody to write the next one in the chat? So cos 57 is equal to what? Exactly. Cos 57 is equal to 0.54463, but we round it to 446. Awesome. So I'll give you a second to write that down. Okay, now if we go to finding angles, we know anytime we need to find an angle, we're going to need to use the inverse or the -1 button, okay? So once again, we might need to use that second button or the shift button, depending on how your calculator operates. It all changes, okay? So when we're finding the angle, remember we want to find C, so we bring that cos to the other side and it becomes cos -1. And does somebody want to write in the chat the angle to the nearest degree? Awesome. 25 degrees. And if we do the same thing with the next one, we bring it to the other side. Can somebody do me a favor and write that answer in the chat? Once again, awesome. So 76.3, we always do it to the nearest degrees. So on this point, or in this case, it's 76 degrees. Wicked. Thank you for the input from those of you that are typing in the chat. That's fantastic. All right, so we're moving on now. None of this becomes really that hard because we've done this with the other ratios, but now we're going to calculate the unknown angle based on the cosine ratio. So it says calculate the unknown angle in the triangles below, round off your cosine answers to 4 decimal places, and then round off your angle answers to the nearest full degree. So if somebody can type in the chat, what is the acronym we're going to put at the top of our page here for this particular example? Awesome. So CA is what we need to remember, and that stands for cos x is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And if we were to fill this in, can somebody help me with what the adjacent side would be and what the hypotenuse side would be, just in the chat? Awesome. So if we look at that, we know that the adjacent being 9 and the hypotenuse being 17, I apologize. And if we divide both of those numbers, we will get cos x is equal to 0.5294. And because we're finding an angle, we have to use x is equal to 0.5294 cos -1. And our answer, if somebody wants to write that in the chat, please, to the nearest degree would be what? Awesome. Once again, 58 degrees. All right. So we have our acronym at the top, and we went through our whole stipulation here of using our side lengths to get us a ratio. And once we got that ratio, we used the inverse or that -1 button. Okay, we're going to continue here. With adjacent over hypotenuse. Can somebody tell me the two numbers I would be dividing in the chat, please? Okay, so 5 over 11. So cos x would be equal to, should be getting 0.4545. And then once again, we got to bring over that cos to the other side. It becomes cos -1. And our answer would be what? Exactly, 63 degrees, okay?